What's going on, Baltimore Raven fans? It's Mitchell Renz from Chat Sports. And coming up here on today's show, the reason why you more than likely clicked on this video is because you saw in the title, DK Metcalf to the Baltimore Ravens. I know some of you are like, Mitch, come on, man. It's Monday. Don't give me this crap. This offseason has taught me one thing. Anything is possible, and Raven fans really need to think about DK potentially coming to Baltimore. On top of that, and at the end of today's show, we're also going to be looking at the NFL draft because PFF released a mock draft, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you who they picked at 14 and at 45 and give you my 2 cents. To make sure you never miss my 2 cents, or anybody's 2 cents here, around the latest Ravens rumors, around the latest Ravens news, trades, draft rumors, we got it all for you. So take a second, look underneath the video, hit that big red button that says subscribe, turn on those notifications, that way you never miss a thing. On top of that, it's a 100% free YouTube channel. The more subscribers we get, the more videos we can create. The biggest rumor circulating right now around the National Football League is probably around DK Metcalf. Now, Ravens fans are like, well, why does this impact me, or why should I care? The reason why you should care is because there's been a report out there that teams are calling about potentially trading for the Seahawks star wide receiver. Now, even though Seattle says we're not going to trade him, I don't know how much I 100% believe that. Also, the fact that Metcalf has gone ahead and tweeted that he hasn't heard anything. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, or even though he said that, teams go ahead behind the players' backs all the time. The reason why I am bringing this up here today is because I'm a believer that one of those teams that called about DK is, in fact, the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, Baltimore's been linked to a few different wide receivers this offseason, last offseason, so why wouldn't they be potentially interested in going out and getting DK? I'm also on social media. I see what's going on. Lamar Jackson, he went ahead on Twitter and basically said that he would welcome him with open arms. I don't know about you. If somebody told me, like, hey, I would welcome you to my home with open arms, probably going to come on over, we're going to have a dinner, we might even have a beer or two. I don't know if DK is going to have a beer. Maybe they'll have 3 bags of candy together, but I do know this. Baltimore does have at least a little bit of interest in DK, and could the trade actually end up going down? So what do you guys think about this? This is what makes Chat Sports. It's in the name. Chatting Sports. I need you to do the chat part. Will the Seahawks trade DK Metcalf? I want you to go ahead down to the comment section to type T for trade. If you're typing T for trade, you're going to like this video. If you're typing K for keep, well, maybe you won't like it. I did find this really interesting quote out there from Jeremy Fowler on a potential DK trade, and we'll go ahead and we'll break it down. This is a name that's buzzing in league circles. No guarantee that anything happens here. I'm told that Metcalf has gotten indications informally from the team that he's not going to be traded. Seattle has said publicly they have no intention to trade him. I don't know about y'all. I don't believe anything that comes out of the Seattle Seahawks' mouth. Why? Pete Carroll's always been someone who said one thing, then they go ahead and do something else. Remember this guy, his name is Russell Wilson. He got traded to the Denver Broncos. There was an article 4 days before his trade, Pete Carroll coming out and said, we're not going to trade Russell Wilson. Well, guess what? They got a good offer for him, and then they decided to move on from him. If Seattle gets good enough draft capital or a good enough trade, I think they would go ahead. And the fact that there's this much smoke, I believe you're going to see a fire soon, and that's going to be a DK Metcalf trade. Whether that's to Baltimore or not, that remains to be seen. Here's also what Jeremy Fowler had to say on a potential DK trade. But the execs I talked to keep bringing him up that maybe they would either be willing to move on at the right price, or that Metcalf would welcome a change. So, something is going on here. It's just hard to figure out what. But he's got 1 year left on his rookie deal. He would need a new contract as part of a trade. That's the tricky part. Now, I get it. That is part of the tricky part. But I also know this. When you're in the AFC North and you look at everything that the Browns did, the Steelers, sure, they might not be competent, but that's still a playoff caliber team, and they're always going to be the worst team in your division. Then you go ahead and say, all right, the Cincinnati Bengals, they just went ahead and went to the Super Bowl. Then you're talking about the AFC West. Then you see what the Miami Dolphins did. Then you talk about what Buffalo. The AFC is stacked, and if you want to be able to compete, you got to make some stuff happen. So give me your thoughts on this. Should the Ravens go out and make a trade for DK Metcalf, type Y for yes, or you can go ahead and type your N for no. If you are going to type your Y for yes, let me know what exactly you're thinking of the draft compensation or trade compensation would potentially be. If you're like, no, Mitch, I don't think it makes a lot of sense, well then, hey man, that's ultimately your opinion. The reason why I'm going to go ahead and say yes is because you got to build around Lamar Jackson. I like Rashad Bateman. I like Hollywood Brown. But if you add DK to this wide receiver unit, Baltimore is going to be a really, really difficult team to stop. He can block on top of that, adds that deep threat, and who are you going to defend? Because if you're going to try to take a few guys back with DK and Hollywood Brown, that's going to open up the running game. That's going to open up the lanes for Lamar Jackson. And let's just say you're not 100% sure whether or not you want to pay Lamar Jackson top dollar like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, all these type of contracts. If he puts up numbers with DK, then I'm more willing to do it. So here's the trade that I think would have to go down if you wanted to get Metcalf. Seattle's got to give up. You have to give up, or the Ravens, have to give up their first-round pick. Seattle then would get number 14. I don't see there being a scenario where Seattle accepts a trade for DK and you don't get a first-round pick. Now, sure, maybe you look into the future, but I'm going to go ahead and base it off of this year and this year alone. So let me know, y'all, who wins this deal. Type BAL for the Baltimore Ravens, or I want you to go ahead and type SEA for the Seattle Seahawks. A friendly reminder, if the Ravens do go ahead and make this move, you're also going to have to go ahead and pay DK Metcalf. I'm not going to say Devontae Adams type of money. I'm not even going to say Tyreek Hill type of money. But he's going to make probably something very similar to what the Saints gave Michael Thomas, a 5-year, over $100 million contract. The reason why this does interest me a little bit is because Baltimore has a lot of draft picks. And let's just say you want to try to get back into the first round. You could trade pick 45 and 76. Sure, you don't have a second-round pick anymore, but then you still have another third-rounder, and this is only if a player that you really, really like falls down to the first round. You hop back up into the first, and then you take your player. But I'll also say this. I've seen a lot of teams, the Philadelphia Eagles are a great example of this, trading out of the first round this year. Why? Some teams don't like this draft as many, which is why, if you're Baltimore and you can go out and get DK Metcalf, you absolutely do it. The next segment coming up here is going to be around the NFL draft, and we're going to be breaking it all down in terms of PFF mock. So I figured, hey, why not? Let's go ahead and let's bring up these awesome Ravens draft hats. If you guys want to get your hands on them, or I guess you're one on your head, is that the way you would say it? chatsports.com/Ravens draft hats. Whether you want the flat bill, the snapback, the fitted, we got all different sorts of colors. This is the brand new Ravens draft hats as well. I should also mention that last year's draft hats are there and they're actually on sale at the link that you see below. So it's chatsports.com/Ravens draft hats. That link is going to be available in the comments and in the description of today's video. All right, the next thing we're going to be talking about now is this PFF mock draft, because I love the offseason. I love rumors. I love speculation, because that gives me as an analyst an ability to go ahead and deep dive what you see some other people doing. PFF does a lot of good stuff. However, their draft content is bad. And I don't really know how else to say it besides that. It's bad. And the reason why we talk about it on here is because PFF gets crowned for being these geniuses. But I've seen their draft content now for 2-3 years. It's bad. It really is. So what we're going to do here is break down their latest 2-round mock draft, tell you who Baltimore ended up taking, and then go ahead and tell you whether it's even likely or not. So here's the draft. We're going to go through picks 1 and then work our way all the way to pick number 14. As you can see, Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeaux, no surprises there. Derek Stingley, Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, not too much of a shocker. Charles Cross, Nakobe Dean at 7, I thought was a little bit early. Desmond Ridder, the first quarterback off the board, that's shocking. Evan Neal, he ain't falling to 9. George Karlaftis isn't going in the top 10. And then you got Garrett Wilson, Trent McDuffie, and then Jermaine Johnson at 11, 12, and 13, which means the Baltimore Ravens would be on the clock. And you got a few different needs. You can go ahead and take offensive tackle, which I definitely think is a likely thing that they could do. You could look at your interior, maybe a center could be another possibility. So what I try to do here is, and I thought about, okay, who are all the players they could go ahead and take from top to bottom? So before I tell you who they ended up taking, I want to know from all y'all, who should the Ravens draft at number 14? And I want you to base it off of what you just saw in this mock draft. So personally, I think there is one player that sticks out. Before I reveal that name, let me know down in the comments, who should the Ravens draft at number 14? The name that I thought of was Ekwonu. Icky. There's no chance that he's falling to 14, which is why I get what PFF is trying to do. They're trying to be a little bit different. I'd be shocked if he falls out of the top 6 because I could see Carolina taking him. I could see a team like Houston going ahead and grabbing an offensive tackle. I've even seen rumors that he could go number 2, number 1 overall. Now, I still think Aiden Hutchinson goes number 1, but Icky isn't falling to 14. If you're a Ravens fan, and he does, you're going to love this guy. He's going to be your left tackle, but he's just mean. Like, he's mean, he's nasty, he's intelligent, and he deserves to go in the top 10. I think he goes in the top 6. So PFF, I get it. Not great with draft content. We already hit on that. It's a good pick for the Baltimore Ravens, but I don't want you all to see this out there and be like, oh, Icky's a realistic pick at 14. He's not. And if he is a realistic pick at 14, then you do not make that trade that I just talked about with DK Metcalf. I'm telling you all that right now. I would take Icky at 14, save my money, save the draft capital, and then go ahead and take him instead of DK. That's how much I like Icky. The next pick that they went ahead and did at number 46 was David Ojabo, who this is another player who before his injury, which was at his pro day, the Achilles, I thought he was going in the top 15. Personally, I think the most ideal landing spot for David Ojabo and the only team that actually takes a shot at him in the top 50 is, in fact, the Baltimore Ravens because of the connection with Mike Macdonald, the new defensive coordinator. Remember, he was the DC for the Michigan Wolverines last year. However, with this division the way that it is, the only way that I'm going to take Ojabo is I feel like, okay, I'm okay at the edge position at linebacker where I don't have to go ahead and use him this year. I still think Baltimore is trying to win right now, which is why I don't exactly like the pick of Ojabo. So go ahead and grade it. A, B, C, D, or F. PFF's mock draft reaction. Ekwonu at number 14 overall. David Ojabo, A, B, C, D, or F. If you're able to get Icky at 14, it's an A, and I'll be like, punt on Ojabo. Hopefully he turns out to be a great player at 23. But let me know what y'all think.